Um, Hope everyone's keeping well. Excuse me. My name is Ewan Hopkins. I work for Cardiff University in the schools liaison team, part of student recruitment. I've been asked just to give you a quick talk on the UCAS process and how about some tips and guidance all about applying to university. So I'm going to run through that in the next 25-30 minutes. I'm going to try and not make it too long because I do appreciate that it's a bit awkward to have it this way, having me in a little box like this instead of a face-to-face or anything further at your school or college. But hopefully it's helpful. Like I said, I'll leave my email address at the end, so if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to give me a shout at any time. But like I said, this is all about the UCAS process. You're probably quite familiar with UCAS in terms of who they are or the name at least. But this will give you a bit more of an idea about what they do, the process of applying to university, and it just gives you a bit of a head start into things you can think about moving forwards now towards the latter part of this year. Okay, so on this slide, I talk through what UCAS actually is and what it stands for. It's the Universities and Colleges Admission Service. It's the main way to apply for full-time education, higher education in the UK. So anyone who goes from school or college into university will apply through UCAS. They act as the link between yourselves and us at university. So our admissions tutors, they will basically send on your application to us. So they act as that kind of middleman almost. And as you can see with the bottom point, lots of students are applying to university every year. So it is competitive, and that's why, especially when I get on to things like the personal statement a bit later on and what you want to put in an application, that's where hopefully it makes more sense as to why you're having this talk, because you want to give yourself the edge, you want to give yourself a chance to stand out. And when there's so many applications, as you can see, with over 3 million, you want to make sure that you're doing as best as you can and starting this process as early as possible, as you hopefully will be after this. It can give you a big advantage there as well. So just some important key dates. I should say at the moment, these are the deadline dates. We don't expect these to change. It was looking at one point like these might be pushed back a bit, but we've not been told anything. The last we heard is they're probably going to stay the same, but do keep an eye out. I know your school or college will update you when they hear more. The application process opens in September of your year 13 or your final year in college. So as soon as September the 5th comes, you can start applying to university. Universities don't work on a first come first served basis. You don't need to get it in on the 5th. It's not going to give you a massive advantage if you do. All I will say is that universities do like students who are quite proactive and have been prepared, and they do apply a bit earlier. But October, early November sort of time, that's what I mean by that. It doesn't need to be on that 5th of September opening day. For any of you who are considering going to Oxford or Cambridge or studying medicine, dentistry or a vet course, your deadline is 15th of October. So that's when you need to get your application in by. 15th of January then is the UCAS deadline for all other courses and all other universities, so the majority. While that's the UCAS deadline, lots of schools and colleges I deal with have an earlier internal deadline of around about between mid-October and early November, I would say, around about that half-term time. So it is important to double check with your school or college if you're not sure when your deadline date is. The reason they have an earlier deadline is not to annoy you, not to rush you and get it in to make you kind of rush the process. It's, like I said earlier, to make you look more proactive. They've also got to do some stuff there themselves as well in terms of writing a reference, which I'll get onto later. So it gives them a chance to get all that sorted and to give all of you the best chance you've got through the application process. Depending then on when you've applied, you can expect to hear back from October, November, up until around about April or May sometimes. If you do get it in earlier, if you get it in before that half-term sort of date in October, November time, then you can expect to hear back before Christmas. If you leave it to the UCAS deadline, sometimes you're having to wait until March or April. Now, if all of your mates have already applied and heard back by Christmas, it's not that nice to be the only one who's sitting around still waiting for offers or to hear back from university. So try and get it in earlier is what I would suggest there. So just going to spend the next sort of 10 minutes talking about the form itself and what goes into it, what sort of things you've got to consider now moving forwards. The application form itself is very straightforward. It's all done online via UCAS.com. If you've got a bit of spare time, then go on the UCAS website. There's loads of tips and guidance on there for you through the whole application form. It gives you an idea as to what it might look like, what you've got to include, what you've got to prepare, so you're kind of well advanced in terms of getting things ready. It also means it's a faster turnaround at UCAS. When I applied in 2006, so 14 years ago this year, it was mainly done by paper. So I was sometimes having to wait quite a long time to hear back from universities, whereas these days sometimes they can get back to you within a couple of days. So it does make for a faster turnaround. It's easy to edit and amend. It means you can go in and make changes whenever you need to. And it can be accessed anywhere you've got the internet. So at home, when you go back to school or college, or when you're able to go to libraries or coffee shops, wherever you work best, then as long as you've got access to the internet there, you can make changes on that form for you. So I'm going to spend, like I said, the next few minutes talking about the application in detail. I'll go over some of these in a bit more detail than others because some of them do take a bit longer and do require a bit more preparation, I would say. This first one, personal details, it is fairly straightforward. On the left hand side you can see the key of everything I'm going to talk through. That is the whole application form, but I'm going to break it down for you. But like I said, with personal details, fairly straightforward. Name, address, all those important sort of things. One thing to say on this is make sure you do check your email address, because I've done it plenty of times where I'm signing up to stuff and I've entered my email address slightly wrong, or I've rushed it. And all it means is that you might not hear back for a while from universities, and you might think, well, why haven't I heard back yet? And it could just be because you've put the wrong email address in. So make sure you double check that. You'll also put in information about your funding, tuition fee loans, those sort of things. Scholarships you could be eligible to receive, residential options. Do you want to move into halls or residences? If you do, let us know, so then we can send you information. You can give permission to have this info shared. So when you apply for student finance, it'll be later in your year 13. You can give permission to have this information shared. I would suggest it's a good thing to do, because then universities can find out what kind of bursaries you're eligible to receive. Bursaries are often amounts of money given out which are non-repayable, and they're based on financial need and household income. So giving permission to share that information can help you out there with getting a bit more money and support at university. Like I said, make sure you check your email address so you know every time there's an update on your application. If you've been made an offer, you'll be notified by email. So you want to make sure you've got the most up-to-date information and you know where your application is at as well. You can also give someone nominated access. In most cases, it's probably going to be a parent or guardian, someone who can just pop in and check and keep up with things. There's some of this personal information you may need a bit of help and information from your parents or guardians, so it could be useful to give them nominated access. But that's personal details. Like I said, it's fairly straightforward. Do take your time over it though. You don't want to make any little mistakes. For example, if you don't tell us you want to move into halls or residences, we're not necessarily going to send you information on that. And by the time you've realised you haven't heard anything, you might be thinking, well, actually, all my friends have been given university places. I don't know where I'm going to stay yet, because I've not heard anything about university residences. Choices. So the next step on the form is choices. This is something that, if you haven't done already, you should really start to think about kind of now up until you apply later this year, because choosing a course can take a while. I know for me, it was something that I found quite difficult, trying to find a course that really suited me. It took me a lot of research, a lot of online research, and loads of questions being asked as well. And in the end, I found my English language course, and it was ideal, but it can take a while. So make sure you're doing your research for that. When it comes to university, you can apply for up to 5 courses. So you can apply for a maximum of 5 university courses. You don't have to apply for 5, you can apply for 1 if you want. I would always recommend applying for 5, because the more you apply for, the more offers you're going to get back. So I would say it's definitely something to consider. Try and keep those choices similar, if not the same, because when it comes to a personal statement, which I'll talk about in more detail shortly, it makes it a lot harder if you're applying for very different courses. So make sure you've done your research and you found courses you want to apply for, courses you want to study, and that they're quite similar, if not the same. One question I often get asked is, do universities matter or care? Sorry, where they're ranked? But when you first apply through UCAS, when you put in your 5 choices, there is no order. There will be an order on the form, but it doesn't work that way when it gets to universities. All we will see is that you applied for us. We don't know where else you applied for or what else you applied for. Excuse me. So there's no order. The only order comes in when you've applied for 5 courses, you've got 5 offers back then saying, okay, if you get these grades, we'll give you a place. That's then when you make a decision on your firm choice, so your first choice university, and then your insurance choice, which is your second choice, which would normally have slightly lower grades because it's seen as a fallback option if, for example, you don't quite get the grades for your first choice. The ones you've applied for, then you can forget about. You can just kind of decline those offers, and then they're forgotten about. So the only order comes in when you get your offers back and you make your first choice and your insurance choice. I mentioned these courses earlier already. They're always a bit different in terms of the application, but for these courses of medicine, dentistry, and vet science or vet med, you can only actually apply for 4 of those courses. The 5th has to be a different course. So you can apply for 4 medicine courses. If you opt to take a 5th choice, which again I would recommend, it has to be something different, something like a biomedical science or pharmacy, chemistry, something linked to that sort of course and career is always what students seem to go towards. In that instance, I know I mentioned earlier you only get to write 1 personal statement. In this instance, quite often the 5th choice, the extra course, will allow you to write a new personal statement just to tweak it slightly towards that course. So it's worth getting in touch with different universities to find out their process on that. And like I said a few times, do try and keep the course choices similar, if not the same. You don't want to give yourself a massive headache or a massive mountain to climb by trying in 1 personal statement to sell an interest in 5 different courses. It can be really, really difficult, if not impossible, to do that. So education. So the next stage here is all about your grades. Obviously, the quite important part of the whole process is your academic kind of ability and prowess and capability. So all results you've got from secondary school onwards, whether you've got the result or you're awaiting them, so all your GCSEs will go in there, any other qualifications you have, if you've done AS levels, any other things you've got, that will go in there. If you started a university or college course but didn't finish it, you still tell us about that, you still tell us about that course. Your referee, who I'll get onto shortly, it'll be a teacher or a tutor in your school or college, they will need to add predicted grades as well. A lot of what the application is based on and decisions are based on are the predicted grades. At the moment for year 13s this year, it's looking like it's going to be solely based on that, with possibility of having no exams, but obviously hopefully next year things will be back in place and back to as normal as we can be. So it'll be based on the offer is based on particular grades, but then of course you've got to then achieve those grades to make sure you've got into that course. It's also important to check when you're filling in your education, your information, you enter the right qualification. There's lots of qualification options on the UCAS form. Some similar names are slightly different, but again, it can make a big difference into the offer you're going to get. So do make sure you've taken your time over that and you've entered the right information. But like I said, this part is really important because a lot of what the decisions are going to be made on will be your academic ability. So your grades you've already got, like GCSEs, and your predicted grades as well. Employment. So this one is a bit of an unusual one, but it is good for universities to know about. It's all about if you've had any paid work. So if you've got a part-time job or a full-time job, then you would tell us about that. It's like if you were to write a CV, we'd need to know about previous employers. It's that sort of information. You tell us the names, the addresses, what you did when you were there, contact details for your manager or whoever it is. If you haven't had a full-time or part-time job, you're not going to be rejected. It's just interesting for universities to have an idea, especially if the job you've had is related to the course you want to apply for. it can make you stand out in that respect. Anything unpaid or voluntary will go in your personal statement. Excuse me. So if you've had any work experience or volunteer work, that won't go here, that will go in your personal statement. I'll jump past statement for now because I'm going to come back to that and go over that in a bit more detail. Reference, I've mentioned this a few times already. This is a written recommendation from, in your cases, a teacher, or it could be an advisor or a professional, but in most cases it'll be a teacher or a tutor. It's really good for universities to hear from someone who knows you academically. It is going to be read by universities. They will take it into account when they're making their decisions. If you were thinking of applying for a physics course, for example, there's probably not going to be someone much better to hear from than someone who's taught you physics at A level or BTEC or IB or Welsh Bac or whatever qualification you've got. So it is really important for us to hear from someone who knows you academically, especially related to that course. The way that most schools and colleges work it is that each of your teachers will write a paragraph on you, and then a tutor or a year tutor will write a final kind of conclusion on you again. So we can hear from you on a subject level and then overall as well. It must be completed before you send your application to UCAS. All these bits on the left, all these bits in the key need to be completed. This is one part that sometimes students think they can get away without, but you can't send it without having this completed, and it will go through your teachers and careers advisors as well. So it does need to be sorted out. If you would like to know how it works in your school or college, just speak to your teacher or your tutor or your careers advisor. It could be that your careers advisor will write all of it for you, or it could be, like I said, in most cases where your subject teachers will write that for you. So it's always worth finding out if you're not sure, and just so you've got peace of mind as to who's going to be writing about you. At the end then, after you've done the statement, which I'll get on to shortly, you can view all details. You can see the application as it would be on a large pullout if you need to make any changes. Once all sections are marked as complete, UCAS can then send it to university choices. If you apply for one course, it will cost £20. If you apply for between 2 or 5 courses, overall it'll cost £25. So again, financially, it costs just £5 more to apply for 5 courses. So it's another kind of bonus, I would say, for that. Like I said, I would always recommend applying for 5. I know that some students think, well, I don't really want to apply for 5. I only want to go to 1 or 2. But you might be surprised. Lots of students will apply for 5 courses. 2 of those courses, they might think, well, I don't really want to go there. They may do a bit more research then and think, well, actually, I'm glad I applied for this because this sounds like the best option for me. So it gives you more things to choose from, more options to have by applying for as many courses as you are allowed to. Apologies if you can hear my dog barking in the background. I don't know what's going on downstairs. Take your time over it. It is, the whole form does take a fair bit of time. It's not something you can do overnight, especially the statement, which I will get on to. But even the rest of it, it's not something you can just sort on a weekend and think, oh, well, that'll be fine. Make sure you've checked all the sections are all completed. There are quite common mistakes, including the email address, like I mentioned earlier on, applying for the wrong course and choosing the wrong fee code. When you apply, when you fill in your information, each course and each university has its own code. So, making a small mistake on a code could end up with you applying for the wrong course, which isn't a disaster. You can go back and change it, but you're playing catch up then. So you want to make sure that once you've applied and once you've sent it off, it's looking as good as you possibly can get it. And give yourself enough time to check spelling and grammar, especially for your statement, which again I'll get onto shortly. A few spelling mistakes aren't going to make a massive load of difference, but it won't look very good. It won't be the best first impression, I would say. Okay, taking a side step now to the statement, which I'm going to focus on for about 5 minutes before I talk about what happens after you've applied. The reason I spend a bit more time on the statement is because it takes more time. It's the one part of the application which will take the most time. A few logistics about it first. It's 47 lines. It's not 47 lines on a Word document. I know lots of students sometimes think, well, if I just write in font size 4, I can get loads in here. But it's when you actually copy it into the UCAS form, that's the 47 lines they're going to look at. The best way to work it out is by characters, which is a 4,000 character limit, which includes letters, punctuation, and spaces. It's a structured statement all about you and why you're suitable for that chosen course. So it's, as the name suggests, it's a statement all about yourself. It can be vital to the process. It can be the one thing that makes a big difference between student and different students. And some courses are very competitive, so you need to take your time over this and make sure you've made it as strong as you possibly can. Jumping back to the first point, I know 47 lines probably sounds like a lot, and you might think, well, I'm never going to fill that. But when I talk through what sort of things you want to include, you'll soon see that actually 47 lines isn't that much. I know students who are doing first drafts and they've got around about 47 lines on a normal font is about one A4 size sheet of paper. They come to me with maybe 3 or 4 sides of it because they've got so much information. So it does take time. It does need you to be clear and concise, and that again is why starting this earlier, maybe over summer, can give you a big head start then. Okay, so in terms of what you need to include, if you click through this bit by bit, it'll go through different sections you want to really be considering. The most important thing, the main thing you've got to put into a personal statement, the main thing you've got to show, and that admission tutors need to see, is a genuine interest in a subject. If you can't show a genuine interest in a topic, then it's going to be very hard for admissions tutors to see you on that course. They're going to think, well, they might struggle. They haven't got enough of a passion for the subject. So maybe we'll try and find students who have got that genuine passion. Now, it's not a case of just writing, I really enjoy this course, I like studying history. It'll show quite naturally. If you've got a genuine interest for a course, then it will naturally show from writing about it. If you think about now, if you were to think about your favourite TV show, sports team, film, musician, anything you can think of, any topic at all, if you were asked to write 47 lines on that, you're going to find that quite straightforward and quite easy. And it's naturally going to show that because you know what you're talking about. If, however, I were to say, right, I want you to write 47 lines on something I've chosen, but you've got no interest in that, that again is going to show, but in a negative way. I'll be able to see straight away you've got no genuine interest in that. It's not really the sort of course you should be applying for. So really think about something you've got a passion for, something you've got an interest in, and make sure that naturally that comes across. Is it something you're doing in school or college? Lots of courses are based on something you're studying at the moment, so it might be based on a current topic. With that, if that is the case, tell us about it. Don't just say, well, I really enjoy psychology at A level. Go into detail about it. Tell us what areas of psychology you've studied that you enjoy. What books have you read that may be linked to that course? What modules have you done? What examinations, what coursework have you done that you can link towards that course? Because that shows an understanding at a deeper level. It also shows more knowledge and more passion for that subject, again, like I mentioned. Any background reading, like I just touched upon, if you've done any reading into it, tell us what you've read, tell us what was interesting about it. If you don't typically do that much reading or research into a subject, I'd recommend just doing a little bit. You can find stuff online or in libraries when you're able to go back to those, or in school. Just because, again, it does show a bit more further research and knowledge about the course, and they're the sort of things you want to see from students. Also think about why you want to study it, why that course. Is it because maybe parents work in that field? Is it because of experience you've been through? Is it because of your studies at A level? There's no right or wrong reason to study a course, but let us know that sort of thing. Okay, so the next step then is work experience. Now, this is going to be a tricky one at the moment, obviously with lockdown and with everything going on at the moment. Typically, for some courses like a medicine, something like that, they will ask for some work experience. We had a chat with our head of student recruitment for medicine at Cardiff University last week, who said that even if students can't physically get some work experience, any reading they can do, any research you can do from your own home will be just as useful. So do lots of reading, things like, for medicine, things like the GMC, General Medical Council, reading documents from websites like that, or journals or anything like that. That's what they're going to be looking for. So I would say for medicine and healthcare courses, it's essential to do that sort of thing. But for any course you're thinking of, you've got to try and think about ways you can stand out. And by getting a bit more experience, doing a bit more reading, you might have some physical experience from maybe earlier this year or last year, but use it to your advantage. Make the most of that and show that you are kind of going the extra mile to make yourself stand out as a viable candidate. What experience have you gained? What skills did you learn? What did you develop from that? Why was it useful for you as well? And even just from reading, like I said, you can gain a lot from that. You can develop lots of skills and knowledge from reading and picking up a book. So make sure you've done that. Like I said, it is an unusual time for work experience, and it is a difficult time for students who typically need that. But reading and research can help you go a long way as well. Career. So with career, you don't need to know what you want to do when you're older when you apply to university. If you do know, if you're choosing a course based on that career, then let us know, because it's good information to know. But again, you don't need to. One of the reasons I chose English language was because I thought, if anything, that could lead me into, thousands of different careers. So it wouldn't narrow me down too much. It would open up more doors. Things like modern languages can lead you into lots of careers all over the world. So you don't need to know what you want to do, but have a think about it. Have a think about what you're going to develop from that course. What are you hoping to develop from studying that degree? And what can you then carry that onto in the future? And then towards the end, a bit more about you personally, I would say. So hobbies and interests. This is part of the statement that students think we don't really care about, but it is useful for admission tutors to see. If you can show that you can balance your kind of academic life with your social life by playing sports, being in societies, being in clubs, getting good grades, that's what university is all about, balancing that sort of academic and social life. So you're going to stand out as a very strong student then. Any sport you play, what does that teach you? What skills you learn from that? Things like teamwork, communication, those sort of things. Really think about what you can learn from that you can use to your advantage. Do you have a part-time job? Do you volunteer? Are you a member of any clubs or societies? Anything you do, think about how you can relate that to your course and think about what skills you gain from that. And that is really useful for us to know. So they're the sort of main things you want to put into a personal statement. It's when you start to plan, write down notes, maybe make spider diagrams or mind maps or however you work best. You'll probably find that actually you've got a lot more to talk about than you had originally realized. So it does take quite a few drafts. I know students doing 7 or 8 different drafts of a personal statement. So it will take time. It's not something you can do overnight. If you do overnight or do it over weekend, that will show. And it'll show quite negatively. So take your time, do lots of planning and prep for this. It's the sort of thing that actually, once you get into it, you can almost enjoy writing. The hardest part about a personal statement is getting it started. But once you've started it, once you've written down what you want to include, you can start to enjoy it, because you're talking about a topic you've got a passion for, and you're talking about yourself. So it should be something you're very confident about, and you can really kind of sell as well. Just some top tips. I have talked about some of these already, so I'm not going to go over this in too much detail. I'll just pick out a few of these. I am conscious of time as well. I don't want to keep too much more of your time. But do lots of research. Make sure you plan it properly as well. Like I said, take your time. Be positive. Talking about yourself and something you've got an interest in. We want to hear about things you're good at. Not things you're not good at. We want to hear positivity and confidence. Check your spelling. If you've made a few spelling mistakes, you're not going to get rejected, but it may make a tutor think you've rushed it. I know if I was to read a statement littered with mistakes, I'd probably think they haven't checked this, they haven't had it looked over, they've rushed it. Whereas if I'm given one which is perfect with grammar and spelling, then I've got nothing to worry about. In terms of things not to do, don't copy others. I'll show you something shortly called the Similarity Detection Service, which is a software UCAS has to detect if things have been copied. But you don't need to copy each other. You're all going to have too much to talk about. So it's all about being clear and concise and trimming things down. So there's no need to copy each other, because it will be found out and it could end up with you not getting an offer from a university. Don't leave it to the last minute, like I've said. In terms of naming universities, you can name a university if you've been there for like a summer school or a taster day or a taster lecture. That's completely fine. But please don't name a university by saying, I really want to go to Cardiff University. Because while that's fine for us, it's not going to be very good for any other university you've applied for. But if you've been there for a taster day or a lecture or a summer school, then completely fine to mention that. That will look very good. Don't sell yourself short. I know when I did my first draft, I sold myself short massively. My teachers, my parents were saying, you've got to really sell yourself a lot more than this. It is tricky to talk about yourself. It is tricky to big yourself up. I do appreciate. But you've got to remember, you're trying to show that you're the best fit for this course. You're trying to convince a tutor that you are going to be a suitable candidate for that course. So you've got to really make sure you are talking about yourself and bigging yourself up and making yourself stand out. Don't waffle. Keep things clear and concise, like I said, and please don't lie. You don't need to lie. You've all got amazing things to talk about, I'm sure. Lies will often be found out, and again, it won't look very good. And in most cases, you'll end up getting rejected by a university. When I mentioned copying others, and I apologise for being quite negative with this, the reason you shouldn't be doing that, and the reason you shouldn't even consider it, is because it will be found out. I know it sounds quite dramatic, but UCAS has this similarity detection service where every single time someone applies to UCAS, their statement is checked against a library of those already in the system. So those from last year, the year before that. It goes back a number of years. And also a variety of websites and books that students have kind of taken lines from in the past. It'll then flag up if something's coming up as the same. If it's the exact same for like a few lines or a paragraph, then that's when they'll notify a university and say, look, we believe this could have been plagiarized. Of course, some sentences, some lines are going to be very similar, if not the same, but it's where there's chunks of it. It's where it's obvious that there's bits that have been copied. It would be very easy if you're kind of low on lines to think, right, well, I'll look online, I'll just take a line from there, and that'll be fine. But UCAS will find out. The best case scenario is a university will contact you and say, can you write a new personal statement, please? And after you've written one, the last thing you want to do is write a new one. In most cases, they'll probably end up just saying, we can't offer you a place on this course. If you do want further tips, one good place to look, and I'm not trying to plug us here, but if you were to go on the Cardiff University website and search personal statement planner, then we have got this downloadable PDF which has got 4 sides, which gives you tips and guidance. It helps with planning. It's got little things to fill out as well, little worksheets to help you elaborate on points and make sure it stands out, but also talks about what to include as well. So everything I've just talked about and more, if you go on our website and just search personal statement planner, there'll be loads of information for you there as well, just to give you a bit more advice and guidance. So just for the last 3 minutes, in terms of what happens next, just so you've got an idea about the journey, you apply to UCAS. UCAS will then send your your application form to us at university. The admissions tutor, the person who reads your application, will then go over it. They'll let UCAS know their decision. UCAS will let you know, which hopefully will be an offer, and then the ball's back in your court. You're going to get one of 3 types of offers. Unsuccessful, of course, means that they've been unable to make you an offer, maybe based on grades or something else. So that means they can't make you an offer. Conditional is how most people will be made an offer, where they'll say, right, if you get these certain grades or these points, then we will give you an offer, we will give you a place at this university. Unconditional is a bit of a tricky one at the moment, because up until this year, it basically means, look, we don't need to see your final grades, we'll give you an offer here and there, the place is yours already if you accept it. Now, while that may sound great, because you're in, please don't see it as a chance just to kind of switch off and think, right, well, I'm already in, why would I bother doing the rest and working as hard as I possibly can. Unconditional offers, I know, are not really favoured by teachers, by parents, by us at Cardiff University and lots of different universities as well. We don't give out any unconditional offers. But please don't switch off, because when you apply for jobs after university, your A-levels will be on there. I've got a friend I went to school with who was getting B's and C's at AS level. He then got made an unconditional offer and finished high school with 2 E's and a U. Now, when he finished university 3 years later, he struggled to get jobs because of his grades at A level. So please don't be tempted to switch off. Because while it's great to have an offer, you want to make sure you've worked hard. You've worked so hard through school and college for so many years, it'd be a shame just to switch off for the last 6 months. The reason I say it's tricky at the moment is because with obviously everything that's going on, I know some universities are giving out more unconditional offers than they would normally do this year. Again, hopefully next year it'll be back into as normal as we can be, so it'll be back to normal with conditional offers. But just so you've got an idea about what each offer means and what to do if you do get made an unconditional offer. You respond then, you make your choice for your firm choice, your first choice university, then your insurance choice. So if you needed 2 A's and a B for your firm and you get an A and 2 B's, so they can't give you a place. Your insurance choice should have had lower grades, so that will then be your fallback option for that, and you decline all the other universities you've been made an offer by. You may be invited to an interview. Lots of courses like healthcare courses will invite you to an interview. Some art and design courses or courses like that will invite you in to show off a portfolio of work as well. Most universities, again, will hold information days for applicants, which again, hopefully by next year are back in play, which is like a very, very mini open day for that course. And it also gives you a chance to find out more and for them to meet you as well. So if you get invited to any of those, I would definitely recommend you going along, because it's really good to get an extra source of information. Just some key UCAS terms to remember as you move forward. UCAS Track is basically like an online shopping order. So if you were to buy something online, you can track your order. It's the exact same with UCAS Track. Once you've received your welcome email, once you've applied and you've received your email, you can track the progress of your application. It helps ease any worries. You might be thinking, right, well, I haven't heard back for ages. I applied 2 months ago. I've not heard a peep from one university. But you can go on through UCAS Track and find that they haven't read your application yet. So you might think, well, okay, nothing to worry about. It hasn't got that far yet. Anytime there's an update to your application at any university, you'll be emailed. So again, like I said earlier on, make sure you've put in the right email address and spelled it correctly, so you can double check and go through UCAS Track to find out what's been going on. UCAS Extra, if you say you unfortunately get made no offers, so you're sitting with no offers at all, or if you change your mind and you decline all 5 because you want to study a different course, then there's a thing called UCAS Extra, which is available between the end of Feb and the start of July. And you can apply for more courses, more universities. Not all courses, not all universities will be available through this. It'll show up as available when you log into your UCAS Track. So if you've declined all 5 or you've been made no offers, you can apply for more courses if you want to. I do have to give you a bit more information about our offer at Cardiff, just so you've got an idea. If any of you are considering Cardiff, then just so you know what you're looking at with our offer. We do have something called an offer guarantee scheme at the moment. So for those students who are taking their level 3 qualifications for the first time, so A levels, BTEC, IB, if you accept an offer from us on a firm basis, then your grade requirements will be lowered by 1. So if you were originally looking at 2 A's and a B, if you accept this on a firm basis, they will lower that to an A and 2 B's for you. This does include a number of courses, including medicine, dentistry, healthcare, and the optometry prelim year as well. If you're not sure, look online and just find out a bit more information about the course you're thinking of applying, if this scheme does apply. And it recognises commitment and potential. It just means that if you're showing commitment towards us and our courses, we'd like to show commitment back and say, right, well, if we're your first choice, we'd like to give you a lower grade because you're showing commitment to us, and it works both ways. Anyone studying an EPQ, I know some of you will be doing an EPQ. If anyone gets an A in that, then again, the requirements will be lowered by 1 grade. This again excludes medicine and dentistry, and you can see an example of lowering it by 1 grade. So just so you've got an idea, that's how we work at Cardiff University. Just to conclude from me, if you are looking to apply later this year, then try and apply early. Get it in October-ish time if you can, because like I said, it'll make you stand out and you're more likely to hear back earlier. Then do be positive, especially during the personal statement. It can get quite difficult. With the statement, what you've always got to consider, if you do find it quite a long slog and you do find it quite difficult, I always say to students, sit back and think about why you're going through this, why you're applying to university. It's because you want a chance to maybe move away for the first time, to study a subject you've got a passion for, to meet people from all over the world, to make friends for life, to go and sample university life, to go and move into a career you want. So what you get from university is a really unique experience. I look back on my time at uni as 3 of the best years of my life. So looking back, I know that the application process can be quite tough, can take quite a long time, but what you get at the end of it is really, really worth it. So just sit back and think about that anytime you do struggle with it, and do pay close attention to detail as well. That's all I'll say. I have taken 40 minutes of your time. I do apologise for going a bit longer than I'd wanted. Hopefully it's been helpful. Hopefully it hasn't been too awkward just seeing my big head in the corner. If you do want to ask me any questions at all, then my email address is hopkinsi@cardiff.ac.uk. So that was hopkinsi@cardiff.ac.uk. Please feel free to email me at any time, or if you want to contact your teachers so they can email me, they can do that, and I can help out best I can. We do at Cardiff, if you go onto our website and you go onto our open day pages, there will be an offer there to register for updates. What we are currently doing is we are sending out weekly emails, including weekly Prezi presentations, all about different topics like UCAS, like finance, like choosing courses, like student life. So weekly topics to keep you kind of in the loop with what you need to be thinking about moving forward. So please feel free to go on our open day web pages and sign up to that. It takes 2 minutes, and we'll send out weekly updates to help give you more information as well then. I'll leave it there. Like I said, hopefully it was helpful, hopefully it was interesting, and hopefully it gave you a bit more of an idea about what you need to be thinking about for the UCAS process. Hope everyone stays well, hope everyone looks after themselves, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of lift restrictions in a few months' time, and you can get back to school as well. Thank you and best wishes.